D, long night tonight. District reconfiguration, information about the progress of the reconfiguration plans regarding construction and early childhood. Who's up first? Construction?
Now we flipped a coin. She's going to end the night because she's exciting.
Well, wait a minute.
I've got to
Right
end
first.
She's prettier.
That's
She's
what
prettier too,
And she, yeah.
aren't we all?
What do you
Not
have
that I would
going for
notice
you?
because I'm in charge of HR.
Well said.
Construction update.
Nicholas would be proud of him.
Obviously, at the high school, it was talked about by Dr. Pritchett, and just give you a quick update of some of the photos. Again, for our community, this is the site plan. We are building on the west side of the high school. If you haven't been there, please drive by. And it's kind of exciting. I think it's starting to take shape right now. This is a little bit closer up view. I haven't showed this one on television lately, this close up. So, because people are always asking about, well, what about parking in Circle Drive? And so this kind of, it's a dual parking area up there. So we'll still use the same entrance to come in off of Cedar Street, and then you can choose to turn left either in one of those two areas. So actual parking spaces, we're really not losing any at all for the district, for that building, which is good. Construction update. This is the photo I showed you on the 20th of last month. This is just kind of from a distance, just to give you an idea of the perspective of what it looked like. And then that's another one from that day. And since then, hallways, this is some samples of some hallways with ductwork already being installed, those type of things. So this kind of gives you an idea of where the hallway on the left is looking toward the old entrance. The old entrance is at the end of that hallway now, and you can kind of see the light coming through one of the doors that's open. This is a couple of shots of the wrestling room, the practice room. They've started the outside brick on it, which is another thing that Dr. Pritchett mentioned, and they will, as we've talked before, they'll start from the north and work out away from the building. So this is, we'll follow along that wall. And this is just similar picture from the one I just showed you on the 20th to give you an idea. It's really started to close in. You can see the entrance there. It's starting to take shape and the overhang. So good progress for that. Tonight I wanted to give you some financial information, and we do have one recommendation for a change order. So I would ask you we'll make that recommendation tonight to approve that. This is a list of the RFPs that are currently out there, and just for the audience, RFPs they can be initiated by the contractor or by the owner. If there's a question, also it can be initiated, for example, RFP number 1 up there addressed some fire protection items that the fire department asked us to address once they saw the plans. And RMU, fire protection, we aren't required to take our plans to them. As a school district, as a government agency, we don't have to do that. And we're not paying them, to look at them. So we have great support from them, and we have to meet code, but we just don't have to, we don't have to take it to them for approval or a permit. It's just kind of a little thing about government agencies. But what I was going to say was the fire department, some of these things are things that we noticed maybe need to be addressed that weren't in the original plan documents. For example, RFP 10 talks about a CMU, which is just block, basically, around a chase. We found one pipe that they didn't put a wall around it, so we need to hide it. So that's what that RFP is addressing. So Some are initiated by the fire department, some were initiated by RMU, just some, the general contract, and then some things we find that we want to change that are different. So the ones in yellow are the ones that we're going to talk about tonight as far as approving. The ones in blue either have not been resolved yet, they're still out there for pricing or discussion. Sometimes they'll send us a price and we believe that it's too high for what we've asked them to do. If it's an increase, sometimes it's a credit and we don't think we're getting enough credit, so we'll send it back and kind of negotiate that a little bit. So, and sometimes it's no charge at all. It just needs to be documented. So the ones in the ones that are not resolved, and then obviously change order 1, that was back in a previous board meeting that was taken care of. So to move on to the change order for change order 2. Change order 2, if you notice, we have credits that total $5,891.57, and the way we deal with that is they take that off of the contracted amount. So we had a credit last time. Change order 1 was all credit, around a little over $8,000, and so that reduced the contract amount. Change order 2, RFP 8, 9, 10, and 11. There are some costs in there for a little over $14,000, and in our contract, we did build into contingency for things that we found that we might find. So we built in a $50,000 contingency that was in the contract. And so when you have expenses, they will deduct that out of that $50,000. Now, obviously, if we had expenses that ended up being more than $50,000, then it's going to increase the contract number. But the contract doesn't have to go up to address some of these expenses. So, but however, state law does say that the board should act on those. We shouldn't, I shouldn't do those or allow those to be done without your approval. So that's why we're presenting it to you this way, so you can see them and ask questions if you'd like. And this is a quick summary of our contract as of the 7th of November, and how much work's been completed, and is the next line. And then we do retain 5% of any payment that we're supposed to make. We hold that 5% until the job's all signed off on. So that's the last check that the general contractor would get. So each time they send us a bill, we pull 5% out of what we've approved, and we hold on to that. And so we're at about 45% completion as of tonight. You all approved a check tonight in consent of about $413,000. So that's in this bottom number.
So you need board action on the change orders?
I would ask for board action to approve change order number 2.
Any comments or discussions on change order 2?
So are we making 2 actions? We're reducing the contract and we're also,
The change order is those 2 total. It's written together.
So there's a credit to the
credit. So
contract,
you're
and
approving
we're
the
spending
change
part of the
order as
contingency
written.
funds.
That has both credits and debits. in it.
All those things are listed in that change order.
Right.
So, and if you have a question, obviously I just put a brief description. All that paperwork's available if you want to look at it.
So put the change order slide back up.
Yep.
Vote on that.
And I apologize for not.
Very good.
So I'd like you to approve the credit and expense that are listed there on change order number 2.
I'll make the motion that we approve change order number 2 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
You.
I'm guessing everybody's still feeling really good about our timeline.
Yeah, it's, you know, the weather's really helped us.
Weather's helped a lot.
Unbelievable.
The roofers, we're putting roof on the main part of the building right now. They started that today. So all the decking's been welded and attached mechanically, so
Dried in.
it's
Probably won't
moving
affect us.
along. Now, if you can tell me when it's gonna snow, I'll tell you if we're ahead or behind or whatever. Obviously, getting the building closed in before you
Is
can't
huge.
work inside, that's the key. So, but feel good about it. Brick on the outside, there's really, once you get the wrestling room, a lot of the rest of the building is glass.
Right.
So there's not as much masonry work on the outside to do. You know, the major challenges, roof completed, heating and cooling unit set on top, so it's closed in. And then the windows and doors, obviously, getting closed
Yeah.
in is the key.
Exciting.
So,
Good
mid-December is what we're kind of shooting at for all those things to be finished. That part of it to be.
By our next meeting.
There's still a lot going on inside,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very
But
good.
Weather won't stop you once you
Yeah,
get.
weather doesn't
Right.
stop you. And then, another thing I didn't mention, on the exterior, they pretty much got the parking area graded to subgrade, so that's good. There's not a lot of parking, curb, you know, those type of things. We feel good about early spring.
Right.
You know, if it's not, if all the curbs aren't in right now, that's not a major
You're not gonna
thing.
get any asphalt now, but.
Right, so we couldn't get asphalt even if we wanted to, but, you know,
Right.
Ordered
it's
it.
moving along.
Chamber.
It's exciting.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
Mrs. Brown will give us an update.
Well, thanks, Laura, for being here so late.
Yeah, absolutely. I have brochures coming, if you want to just pass them down. I'm not sure there's enough. We haven't printed them officially. They're still in draft form, but thanks to Jenny's work, I think we're really, really close. So without knowing that the top 10 by 20 was going to be a popular word tonight, it here is again in the early childhood world, but as you can see up there, no worries, we've got our pups to the rescue, so they're going to come in and save the day for our goal number 2, that all Missouri children will be prepared to be successful in school, beginning in kindergarten. So kind of had a busy few events since I saw you last. I hosted a private provider lunch here in the boardroom near the end of October. We had 5 preschools and daycares present, and we had lunch for them and had a great meeting. Lots of good questions, lots of good partnerships being built. We had a couple of follow-up calls since then. One center wanted me to come over and kind of see what they had and if I thought we could work together, and so I think that was great, and they had a phenomenal facility, so that was good too. I think maybe even the next day or the next couple of days after that, I invited all of our ECSE staff and then the therapist also, just to kind of get them over here and kind of have a question and answer session, kind of talk to them about what it's going to look like from their perspective. You know, if they're being asked questions, definitely want to give them the right information so they can help us share and promote, and that was good. We submitted the brochure to them as well to kind of look through it and see what they thought. We made quite a few revisions after its first 2 times out. One of the things I did not want it to be was something that read very clearly to those of us in the education world.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that it would read very well to everyone in the community. So we've done some work. Jenny has worked lots of hours with me on that, and I appreciate that greatly. Kind of a brochure spotlight that I have to share with you is these are our early childhood children. So these kids that you see in here are somehow part of Rolla Public Schools early childhood programs now. They're either our parents as teachers' kids, or our ECSE kids. So
Hardly cute at all.
Cool.
that makes it,
Oh, aren't they
that makes it ours and exciting and,
Yeah, that's cool.
so, yes, that has been a big hit. Also, speaking of ECSE, we all loaded in my car and took a cruise to Nixa, and we was pretty full ride down there. But we toured their early childhood center, and I think some of you have taken that tour before. So their centers are across the parking lot from one another. We toured their early childhood special ed center, and then we took a walk across the parking lot and toured their early learning center. So we were able to see both of what we're bringing here. They just happen to have it in two different buildings. Awesome trip. It was great to take the teachers to see peers in the classroom and to hear the teachers there talking about how fabulous it was. And our ECSE teachers were able to ask a lot of questions right to other teachers. We were in and out of their classrooms. They let us take pictures, and I think it was a great trip. So one more, let's see if I can get this to go here. Kind of tell you what's next, what's coming. Transportation, as you know, has been a huge piece of planning for this, and I have to kind of give a shout out to our transportation. I've had 3 phone calls within the last 2 weeks of them saying, hey, I've got this idea, I have this idea, without me calling first, and so I know they're thinking about it on their end just as much as I'm thinking about it on my end. So we're going to meet on Monday. We've already met once, and transportation is coming with some, I feel like some really good ideas. So Loretta's building a good plan and doing great things for us there. Curriculum, we need to decide on a curriculum for our program. There are 4 that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education recommend. We wouldn't have to use any of those 4, but I would love to. And we actually have it narrowed down to 2. So we'll work with a team, look what they both have to offer. We've actually, Dr. Reed and I have actually seen both of them in use at different facilities. So we were able to see Project Construct in Nixa. We were able to see ELK, which is, I never get it right, I have to look, Emerging Learning and Literacy Curriculum, fabulous curriculum as well. That was being used in Branson and Lebanon when we were there. So
Could you tell us just a little bit, I mean, what kinds of differences make those different curricula so different from one another?
these 2 are very similar.
Okay.
These 2, out of the 4, the other 2 are not, it's pretty open, not a lot of guidance, which is one thing our ECSE has expressed that they would love a curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of, went that route looking. The Project Construct and the ELK all meet the same criteria. There's all of the domains are built in there. One of the big pieces of ELK that we saw in Branson and then in Lebanon, both that same day, is that it blends very, very well into kindergarten curriculum. And that was why they liked it, because they're an early learning center, and so they have pre-K kids all together within the building.
Okay.
Branson is using a DRDP assessment in their kindergarten that they can take right out. They can use what they've got from their ELK curriculum in their preschool kids, put it right into their kindergarten program, and be able to do their reporting. So those 2 are very similar, though.
Okay.
One has kind of a deeper assessment piece. The ELK has more of an assessment piece than the Project Construct.
Thank you.
Screening, that's coming closer and
fast.
closer. Every time I look at the calendar, that will be here. So February 7th and 8th. And Jenny did mention to me the other day, did I think about a snow day? And I said, no, it cannot snow on February 7th and 8th. So those of you who have control over that, if you'll kind of back me up, I would appreciate it. I don't need to reschedule those 2 days. And then the next thing that's on my quick...
You can gladly drive the roads that
Yeah.
Make that decision.
Yeah.
You're always welcome.
Always, well,
Always welcome to be a guest caller offer.
yeah. I'll just let you take care of that, but thanks for the offer. I'll ride with you, but I'm not driving. Thanks. Meet with the elementary administrators. I feel like we're ready for that. After we talk to transportation, we can kind of get that wrapped up, just to discuss schedules within their building, how our little guys are going to affect that. Food service, as of right now, we're expecting breakfast for our morning kids, and then providing lunch for our afternoon kids. And then for those private providers that are partnering with us, we are working to be able to get our morning kids to them in order for them to serve lunch there. Drop-off and pick-up procedures, that conversation has been popular throughout the works, but kind of follow up and make sure we're set on that. As room assignments are pretty well, have been discussed too, but just so we kind of all are together on that. So, any questions on where we're headed?
We're gonna get there fast.
We are going to get there very fast. And then I have to just kind of throw out some numbers to you from our parents as teachers end. To me, these are phenomenal numbers. Right now, we have 206 children enrolled prenatal to 3. We have 17 prenatal families right now, and that's really high. And 3 to kindergarten entry, 129 children enrolled in our program. And if you look up there at the very top, this number, I looked and looked and looked to make sure this was right and compared, and it is right. Our parent educators have completed 438 home visits already this school year.
Wow.
So they have been in a home with families that many times just in a.
And how many parent educators do we have now?
8, including me. We have play groups at the center every Monday and Thursday. I've talked to you about that. These are live pictures just from this year. So you can see down on the bottom corner, those are our kids at the center. We have an in-home visit picture, Messy Arts at the very top that we host out here in the parking lot. And then the other one is at Wyman. We hosted a It's So Gross motor activities event and had a great time there. We also have partnered with the lactation clinic at the hospital, and Julie Turbin comes once a month and does an hour breastfeeding support group for our moms in our office, and that partnership is going fabulous as well. So great things in the world of early childhood.
Good,
Do you have
good.
questions for me?
Thank you very
Pick out a
much.
snow date.
Thank you.
Pick out a snow day.
They don't